EFL transfer windows, eh? Ooh. Hello and welcome to what we're tentatively calling episode 6 of the Greatest Manchester Football Podcast, the show that does what it says on the slightly rusted tin. Yes, we are entering your ears, eyes, and let's face it, bloodstreams every Thursday from 7 in the PM. I'm Nick Lee, and yes, doing all your business on deadline day is the behaviour of a club that didn't do their jobs properly back in the summer. I know, I agree. Luckily, I'm joined by a man for whom traditional transfer windows are no longer an issue. Sorry. It is, of course, Matt Dean. Matt, how are you doing, man? You good?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah. Thanks for instantly reminding me of my wonderful football club's perils in the now non-leagues and how transfer windows no longer apply, along with so many other things that no longer apply.
But it's good because you will get like just a night in February. You know where you go to bed early and you're just like, oh, there's nothing on telly. And then you'll be in bed and you'll get a signing at the weirdest time. That's one of the benefits of the non-league.
I more, to be honest, imagined a night in February being some big hunk in a metal suit on a horse, just riding down Sheepfoot Lane, coming to Boundary Park.
How Rochdale are feeling right now.
I'm your night in February. Ooh, hello. Anyway. Thanks for that, Nick.
Anyway, it's going to be a special transfer window themed episode, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So I'm just going to sit here quietly because we never sign anyone for fees, and they're always tend to be pretty bobbins. But I'm sure we've got two people with us that have got far more experience of the excitement of deadline day and just signing players in general than I have. So that's why it's been a good idea to get these two fellas on, to be honest.
Well, you get not just experience. We're actually live on deadline day at the moment. We're still at the ground trying to sort stuff out going out. So, this is, I think, possibly first. I don't actually know of any podcasts that have come live from transfer deadline day before. So maybe we can get that into Guinness Book of World Records.
I mean, we are going a little bit Sky Sports with that, aren't we? I suppose. I mean, live on deadline day. So, I mean, please bring us something exciting, Will. Something happening live. Whatever you can.
At the very least, just get some yobbo with a dildo. I'll take anything at this stage.
The gate's open if anyone wants to run down and jump in the background.
If we'd have planned this properly, Nick, that definitely could have been you. That could have been your role tonight, couldn't it?
I can see. I'm exactly the type of smug-looking gimp that would do something like that. But then it's just one step from that to having signs asking for the players' shirts, isn't it? And I can't condone that sort of behaviour.
No,
so it's slippery slope.
That's true. Yeah. So for anyone who's not seen it before, Nick, you represent. Well, you don't represent Stockport County because I doubt very much they'd make you an official ambassador or anything like that. But
I'm not having none of it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I'm with them on that. But you are a Stockport County fan and one of the hosts of the Scarf Bagara War podcast. Correct.
Yes.
And I represent, and again in no official capacity, Oldham Athletic, and I I forgot my podcast, the Boundary Park Alerts. That's my podcast. Will, do you want to just introduce yourself to those who do not know?
Yeah. So I'm Will. I work at Salford. I've been involved with the club for quite a long time now. This is my 9th season. I do the club's match day commentary. I'm a massive believer in up the programmes. They will continue in a print format until the day it doesn't, but that won't be anytime soon as far as we're concerned. Obviously, we came right up through the non-league system and in the Football League now. So sort of been there through transcending all the leagues that we discuss and, enjoying it.
Nice to explain that because I know that a lot of people listening will never have heard of Salford City, so thanks for clearing that up. And finally, Amos Murphy, you're new to the podcast. It's your first episode. We were discussing before that you have commandeered Andy Crane's broom cupboard, but you didn't know what we were talking about, which suggests you're quite a bit younger than I am. So welcome, Amos, to the show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the big boys usually come in later in the round. So, yeah, just sticking true to form.
Yeah. Well, let's hope for a shocker on the cards. You've got a set up there. You've got artificial grass on your walls and all kinds of things. Presumably that's and a podcast type setup. What do you want to introduce? What you do normally for your listeners? Presumably, you have lots of listeners, do you?
Yeah, it was the worst gardener in the world. I asked for artificial grass, and they started laying the walls with it. So they didn't get a very good review. So usually I do a City podcast. It's called City Report Pod. Bi-weekly episodes, 2 a week, talking about the wonderful world of Manchester City, which, as everyone likes to say, has no jeopardy in it at all. So yeah, nice and simple in the world of City at the moment.
Yeah, well, we're definitely in contrasting universes here, aren't we? With us four, for sure. Nick, kick us off, mate. What's this? Why are we gathered here this evening?
Because it's Thursday night, and this is what we do on a Thursday night.
All right.
I'm trying to bring some gravitas to it. I'm trying to be the one on Sky Sports News who doesn't want to be hosting deadline day. He doesn't want to be arguing over who's had the best window. That's who I am here. Because I think if you're scrabbling around to try and find a player in the last 3 hours of the window, as my team are currently doing as we speak, I think you've got something sorely wrong in the summer. Man United are scrabbling around for players. That should tell you everything you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I need to say anything more. Man United are desperately trying to add like 2 or 3 more bodies. That just says it all. That's if you're doing your business now. That's who you're getting lumped in with. That's it. I'm having it. I'm dying on this hill tonight. That's it.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't mind being lumped in with Man United, but
I would. I'd definitely mind.
I mean, they're a long way from where we are. So what's the general feeling? Is there? Will, you're in the thick of it there at Salford. What's it like on deadline day?
It can be hectic. I've got to say, as far as deadline days go, today's actually not been too bad. We were discussing earlier with one of the colleagues actually what the worst one's been, and I think back to January in 2020, that was our first Football League season. That was ridiculous. We were still here, beyond midnight, working, bringing players in late, because that's when they thought, actually, we need to bring more people in for the Football League. This one's not been too bad. We had quite big transfer news earlier in the week when Brandon Thompson-Sante left us for the Championship. He's gone to West Brom. Obviously, that was a big blow. He's leading scorer this season, 5 goals and 2 assists in 7 games. So it's been a little bit of a game to replace. We brought in a lad on loan from Brighton last week who I think there might have been half an eye on Brandon going already with that. But so far today, we've brought in a goalkeeper, which we're expecting to on loan. And we've just announced Ethan Galbraith to come on loan from Manchester United. So that will bolster, I think, some of the attacking midfield option that we've got. Internally, it's a lot of running around. It can be. Sometimes you get deals that come up quite late, so it's not always about you're really badly prepared. Sometimes there might be a player you've been looking at and thinking about, and it's only actually late in the window where they realise, actually, at my current club, I'm not getting game time. I'm going to take the offer that's there for me. So a lot of other things can, change late, but it's fun. It is exciting still. You get it a couple of times a year. January is definitely the worst of the windows. The sun one's not too bad. So it's nice to put it to bed on a good note. Just obviously from a Salford perspective, I think we've had a pretty good window, really. The players we brought in, they really fit the style that head coach Neil Wood wants to play. And we started the season well. So, I think we're really optimistic and looking forward to this first half of the season and see where we are.
Is it a pain in the arse then for everybody having the window overlap the start of the season? Should the window close on the kickoff of the season? Wouldn't that just make everything a whole lot easier for everybody?
Yeah,
because
I certainly agree with that.
Yeah, because it seems like you get somebody comes in and offers you, I don't know, £5 million for your play for one of your players. You can't afford to turn it down. All of a sudden, you weren't necessarily planning on selling him. He goes, you need to replace him. Everyone's scrabbling around at the last minute trying to sign players. It works all right for the clubs that have money, but it's a pain in the neck for those that don't, surely.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I mean, yeah, because for me, when you finish the season, every single club, whether you badly run, whether you well run, your objective should be getting ready for the season. And if you get to that, whether it's EFL, National League, Premier League, whenever that is, sort of around August, if your squad isn't at that point ready, you have to be asking, what on earth have you been doing? Because last couple of years with COVID, it's been a bit different, but it's a big gap in relative terms, in terms of getting players in and out between the end of May at the latest up until that first period in August. And it just seems to me, when teams start off badly in their league campaign, I mean, look at Chelsea, the absolute nonsense they're getting into at the moment. They just love it's a get out of jail card, essentially, and it's not really how it should be. Because as you say, Matt, it's the clubs who further down the pecking order who can't say no to players leaving. I mean, I'm looking at one in the National League now, Kabongo Shamanga, who's looking like he's going to Birmingham City in the Championship, which is like a 3-league gap. And granted, as you said, Nick, Chesterfield will get a chance to sort of replace him because of the National League's window going on until, I don't know, like late April, whenever it is at the moment. But it still is bizarre for me how you can have a season going on and then suddenly 3-4 weeks in, if a team's not doing very well, they go, yeah, you know what, we'll get the wallet out and we'll bring someone in.
Because it was like obviously back in the past there wasn't a transfer window, so you could buy and sell players at any time, and obviously that was the thing. It was, well, such and such is doing really well, so we'll buy him, and then. But then the other teams then had the other time to bring in whoever they wanted. So it really feels like it should be one thing or the other. And I agree with you, Nick, because otherwise it does kind of make a mockery of having that time to get yourself prepared, doesn't it?
It should be like all or nothing for me. You can sign either, like you said, close the window the night before the season starts, or just let people just sign players all the way through. So you get that stuff that you had in the old days where teams would sign a player with like one game to go just to indulge in a bit of shithousery. just that sort of thing. Let's bring that back.
Yeah.
Satsumas at half time and that'll do me. Be well happy with that.
Yeah. Does anyone know why it carries on into September? Is there a particular reason for it, or
well,
is
a couple of seasons ago it did end before the season started, but especially in the Premier League, at least I don't know if it was the same for the EFL, but Europe, that those bloody Europeans, those pesky Europeans, said that we don't want to do it like that, and so the English leagues had to go sort of revert back to the old system. But there was a time, I can't remember exactly what season it was, but certainly in the Premier League it did stop before that sort of first game of the season.
Did you hear about the Dutch today?
Getting away from Europe. Oh yeah.
They've actually had to go to FIFA and ask them because someone submitted something where they closed the window early. So they've actually had to go to FIFA to ask if they can extend it by a day because it closed yesterday instead.
Yeah,
it's just like who does that? Like how does that happen?
Yeah, I just imagine like the FIFA officers being like, you know, in Mike Bassett where he has to put the note under the door. I'd imagine the FIFA officers are just like that. It's like, oh, we've got some thing here from Sepp Blatter in 1994. What in the women to wear tighter shorts? What do you want to do with this? Like, yeah, I just imagine it's like that.
All you have to do at FIFA to get anything, is just the doors aren't thick enough. The gaps under the doors aren't thick enough to fit the big brown envelopes full of cash that you need to get things done at FIFA. But yeah, it all seems to me like football bureaucracy is a strange thing. You know, like law changes, rule changes, things seem to happen all the time. And it's like anything, I suppose. People seem to have to justify their existence, don't they, by coming up with something different. Just to go completely off topic, but I think, speaking of rule changes, Rashford's offside goal that wasn't against Liverpool and that Everton goal that was disallowed as offside against Leeds the other night, when they were virtually, I mean, how you could tell the difference between the two of them. Like that kind of nitpicking and pissing around with details and law. I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? Two goals that both should have been absolutely fine. Because if it takes, my thing on it, if it takes forever to figure it out on VAR, then it's a goal.
Yeah.
If it takes that much study that you're having to bring in
errors.
Yeah, they're bringing in NASA satellites to telescopes to try and tell it's crazy.
If you're having to watch it for 5 minutes and like to work out, then it's not a clear and obvious error, is it? It's basically. I do like it when in the leagues where the referees aren't encouraged to go and watch the footage back, and you'll have this where the VAR is watching it back, and the referee's just stood there on the pitch with players just gobbing off at him, and that must be the closest any of these referees will get to like working in retail. Just like this is how it is. Just people shouting at you for something that's well beyond your control.
Boxing Day sales in Matalan.
Yeah.
I was at a ladies' game last night. Our women's team and the referee actually at half time said, "Are you watching some replays on that?" Because I was there filming it on the main camera for the highlights and the goals, and the referee actually asked, "Can you watch an instant replay on it?" So watch this space.
Oh wow!
He couldn't, but
times like that, I think I might just take up like ketamine and just go to my local park on a Sunday morning and just volunteer my services. Like, run it in slow motion, lads. Yeah, that's my Sunday sorted. Jobs are good.
Well, it's other. Just like to point out that other hobbies and interests are available. Right, what were we talking about? Transfer deadline day. That's right. Okay, so I mean, City. When it comes to City, you can't really complain about City's transfer activity, can you? I mean, it's just like
an actual robot.
Yeah, an actual real life robot.
I mean, the guy you've just like got it right.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, this City window has been a little bit un-City in a way. Usually, for all the money, it's 1 or 2 signings here and there. I mean, last year it was Jack Grealish, much was made of that. But this year it's been a mad overhaul, and my sort of understanding of that is probably the fact that it's a knock-on effect of the sort of the last 2-3 years in football where absolutely nobody's had money to be able to buy these players that City have sort of been stockpiling on the bench. So Raheem Sterling goes, Gabriel Jesus goes, Zinchenko goes. But in terms of players who come in, it's petrifying. Erling Haaland, he gives me nightmares, and I'm sort of a supporter of his. Just the thought of him pressing you and seeing him move, it's absolutely horrifically horrifying. And well, there was reports this week that Premier League managers are having Zoom calls on how to stop him, and we're 1st of September. He's been here 5 games, and that's happening now. I dread to think what it's going to be like in April, May.
He's a player that's always had like not massive injuries, but he's always had the odd niggle and everything. He's had kind of the odd knock, but he just gets a month off mid-season.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
it's so scary. It's absolutely frightening. Yeah, I've got horrible visions of us getting City in round 3 of the cup.
Oh,
and I don't think I'll ever sleep again. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
The first time I saw him, when he scored, West Ham won it. He scored the first game.
Yeah.
And I saw a video on Twitter of him celebrating, and my first thought was, God, them FIFA games are getting realistic. Because he just doesn't. It looks like a computer game player. It's weird. I just can't put my finger on it, but it's really frightening. Like if Hitler made a footballer, that's what it'd look like, innit?
Well,
we can't rule out. Yeah. We can't rule out that there isn't a football lab somewhere where footballers are being developed, for the top level. They're spending so much money on them. I mean, it's almost pretty much how much it would cost.
I mean, Lionel Messi was basically like genetically engineered, wasn't he? Just Barcelona got him at 15 and just pumped him full of hormones and stuff.
Yeah.
Had him hooked up to machines and stuff. Yeah, mental. Game's gone mad.
It's all. I'm just getting images of Ivan Drago and Rocky IV, and just I keep getting me and my dad keep going Erling Haaland, and just saying it wrong just to wind my nephew up to the tune of Captain Scarlet. So now I don't know what his real name is. It's just Ergel Haaland or whatever. But so I can't say it right. It's just stuck. But he's got a little bit of the Ivan Drago about him. Just that huge blonde dude.
Yeah.
covered in baby oil, stood next to Grace Jones.
He's a soccer machine, Matthew.
He
He's a
is.
soccer machine.
If he dies, he dies.
Yeah. He eats goals for breakfast. He does, I bet.
Yeah, but he is. I
Yeah.
mean, like you're saying about like, how do you stop someone like that with physical presence that he's got, and
and the speed as well. He's rapid.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
the speed,
absolutely
the movement.
rapid.
But there's limited. If someone's up to a certain size, you've got to say you've got someone like Van Dijk, who's a big centre half. They can deal with them, can't they? To some degree, they're smaller. But with him, it's like, well, come on then. I'll take you on physically as well. It is frightening.
He's like the same height as me as well. He's like 6'4". I can't run at the speed he can. I did a run around the park and my ghost overtook me halfway around. I just must have died at about a 40-meter park. It's horrible. So how's he doing it? It's mental.
Because he's a professional athlete, Nick.
It may have something to do with it.
And you're not, mate.
But it's the other players City have as well. If you manage to stop him, then you've got someone like Kevin De Bruyne lurking in the back, and it's not a bad problem to have, I suppose, is it? There could be worse problems.
Yeah, but it depends which way you look at it, doesn't it? I mean, you're a City fan, so for you, it's all fantastic. For me, I'm already looking at the Premier League and going, well, when are Arsenal going to drop off? This great, because they will, because they're Arsenal.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're doing great. But everything seems to be working for them, and but City, you just think, well, City are just going to get better and better. Liverpool have already given them a big head start, and you're just thinking, well, here we go, City winning the league again. And then you end, at what point do you end up turning into United? Insofar as the way they dominated it, and then disappearing up your own arses, and everybody hates you. Is that going to happen with City, or what? Because there's a lot of chat between like City fans. There's the City fans that are loving all this, and there's the City fans that have lost the City that they fell in love with, and all that kind of stuff. How do you feel about it?
There's certainly a divide, and you do see that people, dropping away, those who've had season tickets since the 1960s or whatever, and eventually, and part of that is age. We can't all go to football matches forever. Part of that is the fact that it's never been more expensive to go to football matches. It isn't just a sort of completely apathetic turning the back on it. But part of that is the fact that we all enjoy football for certain reasons, and I've had to come to the sort of realization that when I go to watch City, it isn't the same football that 72 clubs in the football pyramid. You could even say the sort of bottom half of the Premier League experience, those who float between the Championship and the Premier League as well. You do have to come to the realization that as much as you believe this is your club, the audiences and the sort of the markets there looking to tap into are just completely different than the ones you sort of you operate in yourselves. And when you come to that realization, as sort of sad as it is, you do start to understand it. And as for the success point of view, I mean, I've seen a line banded about that City fans must be bored of the winning constantly. I promise you, it's not the case. I mean, I've in my sort of 22 years on this planet, I've seen City sort of as bad as a Premier League club can be without ever having to really drop into the lower leagues, sort of like absolute. I was looking at some transfers in the build up to this, but you speak about signing some dross. How on earth some of those players got contracts, and they'll probably end up at United by the end of tonight. They were that bad. But then I've gone from sort of at the age of 12 having the Aguero moment, and then just 3 or 4 months ago, sort of replicating that with the Gundogan one. So it does become tedious a little bit. Last night 6-0 against Forest. You could argue the jeopardy isn't there, but it was still just as enjoyable as it would have been, 10, 15 years ago.
Anything that gives Jesse Lingard a face like a smacked ass, he's just fine by me.
And Dean Henderson as well. And Dean Henderson, he's another nutcase.
Yeah, I mean,
I think to be a goalkeeper, though, aren't you? I think we've had a few when we've had like county players on the pod. We've asked them about like Ben Hinchliffe and stuff, and they say, "Oh, he's mental." But then you say, "Oh, what do you mean by he's mental?" He's like, "Oh, he just sits on his own in the dressing room and trains on his own." It's like, well, that's life being a goalkeeper. That doesn't mean he's but he was a truck driver, Ben Hinchliffe, or a long distance lorry driver, which does make you think.
Yeah, you have to sort of be at one with yourself. Well, Dean Henderson was at County many years ago, wasn't he?
Yeah,
As well,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got good. We've got a good record with lone goalkeepers. Us who've kind of played the first ever senior games with us, and then got like John Ruddy, Wayne Hennessy, everyone's favourite Nazi footballer. Oh, sorry, no, he doesn't know about the Nazis.
He doesn't.
Does
He doesn't know. He wasn't taught that in year 4 or whatever it was.
Yeah, he must have been playing football that day or something. Bless him.
Yeah.
Twice we've gone on to the Nazis in this episode already, which again wasn't expecting.
Wayne Hennessy brought it on himself, though. You can't talk about Wayne. It's like if you met Neil Armstrong. How long would you be talking to him before you went? Yeah. So tell me about the moon. And it's the same with Wayne Hennessy. It's like his name comes up. First thing I think of is his first 9 games in senior football. We won them all, and he kept a clean sheet in every one. Still a Football League record. And then I go on to the Nazi salute. It's not. There's not really much else to talk about with Wayne Hennessy. That's the two main.
Well, at least
things.
if he's talking to you, he's got that positive record to kick off with. I suggest with other people, it might just be straight on to the other stuff. So
that's it. I'm just getting visions of me meeting Wayne Hennessy and asking him about the moon. it's all just going to get mixed up in my head. And that's yeah.
Well, I was thinking more, Amos, before about because I've got this thing in my head because obviously I think what it is as much as anything is because Oldham have fallen so low, but we were in the Premier League and we used to play Man City in the second division, and the gap was always big, but it didn't seem so big. We used to bring City players, and Joe Ralph famously built his team off City and Everton reserve players, and players coming from Leeds like Dennis Irwin and stuff like that. And it just seems it's just like every single year it just gets further and further and further away. And then you've got like Newcastle coming in now, and that Newcastle v City game, by the way, that was a great game of football to watch. And you're watching the game at the top level like that, and you think, well, this is great. But at the end of the day, you've got like royal families owning them and stuff and all this, and it's just kind of like, it just kind of worries me the direction of it all. Not that there's anything I can do about it, but I just start feeling a bit more and more isolated from that level of football, and I think with sport, it's supposed to be a competition, and you're supposed to feel like you've got an opportunity to rise up back from the street. I was going to do the Tiger lyrics then, but I
I know what you mean. I think the fact you say there at one point, even Stockport County. I mean, Stockport County fans, as I'm sure Nick will love to tell City supporters, that there was a season that they did finish above City, and there was differences there. But when there are those tangibles, and you see City sort of go from Division 2. Sort of being some of the absolute, literally the darkest days of the football club, and the end wasn't in sight. It could have got much worse, and you go from that to Premier League title winners in the space of 20 odd years. It's hard to compute because it isn't like United, it isn't like Liverpool, it isn't like, I know Chelsea had a few years down there as well, but they were a successful club in the 60s and whatnot, and Arsenal as well. It isn't like these clubs who've always been at the pinnacle of English football. It's a team that near enough every single club in the Football League would have at one point come up against and would have at one point probably beat. I think you could go through, some of even the 92 now, bar the teams who've come up for the first time. I'm pretty sure you could find a game where most of them had beaten City. And then you go from that, like I said, on to success. It is difficult to really compute how it's happened, and obviously it happens with money. I don't think if any City support down some money, then they need to sort themselves out essentially. But the counter argument, I suppose, is since the inception of the Premier League, it's never been any different. If you look at a list of Premier League winners, I mean, United are the obvious ones, and you could even go back to the sort of the last few years of the First Division when Liverpool had a monopoly over it, and it's always been like this top level English football. Even go further back when you first had the professionalisation of it. These really powerful teams from the north of England, Preston North End, Blackpool, Bury, etc. You've always had a top club. It levelled out a little bit, of course it did, when you sort of had that influx of money going into the south as well, when they realised that it wasn't just sort of the gentleman who could play football. You could actually make something out of this. But it always has been a sort of a distorted playing field. How far that goes, I think, is the problem, because if City were to go on say, what is it at the moment, 4 Premier Leagues in 5, if it was to sort of match that trajectory and go to 8 in 10, there's an issue. You're looking at Bayern Munich levels of sort of domination there, and as good as enjoyable as the Bundesliga is below from Bayern Munich, there's always that issue that there you start to see. There's no point in doing Bundesliga predictions, is there? Because you know who's going to win it, and the same in France, and it's sort of the same in Spain with Real Madrid and Barcelona. So as long as it stays away from that, I wouldn't sort of have too many sort of issues. But if you do get to the point where City are going 8 titles in 10 years, then yeah, okay, have the conversation.
But it's not just that for me though. It's how do you start to compete? Like, how does any? I know you've always had certain teams of dominance, but it tends to go that like once that falls away, like Liverpool and United have always been the 2 biggest clubs in the country, and Leeds have had their moments, like you say, over time. Chelsea, whatever, Arsenal, but they tend to fall away because that's what happens in sport. Like you can't dominate forever. You will have successful periods and then you will fall away. It's this reluctance at the top level for that to fall away and to stay up at the top and to stay generating all this money. And the only way you're ever going to break into it is by, corrupt Russian oligarchs or royal families with appalling human rights records. And that's what bothers me, because I've my social conscience is getting twanged all the time by this with football, and it just, I think the thing is though, like, Newcastle fans won't give a shite if they win the league, will they? They'll be like, whatever, and people are prepared to put certain things to one side for the sake of success in football. It's a funny one because people have different beliefs and value structures and all that kind of stuff, don't they? So
yeah, I completely get what you're saying. I mean, I'm not someone who would ever sort of be an apologist for City's owners. I'd always at the sort of first hurdle say, yeah, it's despicable. And if the City owners walked out of the building tomorrow, I'd be sort of ushering them out. I'd be getting the red carpet and saying, thank you for what has ever happened, but now's the time to sort of have those conversations. I think for me, the way I look at it as someone who doesn't want these people involved in football at all is twofold. At the other end of it, you sort of, yes, of course, you deplore this model of ownership, but you also look at it and go, the opposite side to that coin isn't exactly much better. I mean, you look at a club like Wolves, their dealings are quote unquote dodgy. Just look at the sort of structure their club's being operated in. It's not too great. But then as well, you've got the American ownership model, which is essentially venture capitalists coming in and sort of squeezing clubs, these historic institutions, United, Liverpool, etc., squeezing clubs until they're absolutely dry, and their connections are left to what wanting to be desired as well. And then the other side of it, from the supporter point of view, is I'm always someone like, I presume yourself, Matt, whose social conscience is at play with what is going on, but not everybody thinks like that. And I think I talked about coming to the realization of sort of understanding the Premier League and the fact that it's not really football. Understand supporters that they don't sort of why do we all watch football? It's for what happens on the pitch, isn't it? Now, some of us sort of sat here on a podcast take that beyond the pitch, and we delve deeper and we have other interests in football. But at the heart of it, most people's core interest in football is that 90 minutes. It may be going to a home and away, it may be the piss-ups, it may be this, that, or the other, but they are not interested in what happens off the pitch, where the money comes from. And I would never, so for example with Newcastle, I would never sort of castigate a Newcastle supporter who isn't interested in that and say you're the problem, blah blah blah, because they've outlived. They were here before the owners, and they'll be there after it. And to sort of pin the blame on them, for me, doesn't sit right. Whereas if somebody wanted that conversation and they wanted that with me, if someone came to me like, "What do you think of City's owners?" I'd be open and honest about it. And I think that's how you have a genuine conversation as opposed to sort of creating this tribal issue where people get their backs up about it if you say to someone, your owners are this, that, or the other, and then you get a lot of what about you, I suppose, and I don't think that's really helpful for anyone's cause.
Well, that's the thing. It's not the fault of Fat Barry off from Newcastle, is it? Who just goes every week and drinks 12 pints and all the rest of it. It's the game itself. It's the infrastructure of the game.
Yeah,
it attracts so much money now. So much greed. You look at all the people around it. That's the issue, isn't it? Football attracts and it always has attracted like dodgy people, and selfish people and greedy people. And it's never really been any different. It's just that now the sums are just getting more and more and more and more and more. And I don't know. I think it's important to keep having these conversations about football and the effects that it has on the wider community and how much money where's all the money going? All that money that's generated by football, all these fees, it's going to agents so that they can buy, can ponce around in big cars and, waste money on whatever shite they spend it on. And they're taking it out of the game. And then that's what bothers me. That kind of thing that bothers me. So I think we should probably lighten the tone and ask Will if there's any signings been made at Salford, bringing in the live transfer room.
Yeah, I was just trying to work out if I could do a ticker on the bottom of the screen. Breaking news. We've just brought in Odin Bailey, attack midfielder, 2-year deal from Birmingham. He's going to be the replacement for Brandon Thompson-Sasante, sort of. He's got experience in League Two. He's been with Forest Green Rovers. He played in the SPL last year with Livingston. So he'll come in. He'll add some attacking pinaz, I think, back to our front line. And with that, sort of rounds up our transfer window. That's all we're expecting. Should be nothing else coming in. Hopefully no one else going out at this time because everyone wants to get going now. So breaking news. That's deadline day and transfer window completed.
That was good.
Yeah,
that was miles better than Sky Sports
slick.
News, just dragging stuff out for nothing. And that was just straight to the point, no messing about, delivered.
And luckily, no one behind with animate objects. So
I was hoping for the player to walk behind you.
No, we're all good. I've just got the groundsman now wanting to lock up and throw me out. So,
well, don't worry.
It's a good window.
That's the behind the scenes part of it. So I wanted to ask, just on a Stockport point of view, Nick, how do you feel your guys' window's gone? I think particularly in light of the way the season's started.
Yeah, it was I didn't want to moan like when it was all going on in the summer, because Russ, who obviously joins us on here and is also part of the show I do with him, he thinks I've got a big hard on for just whinging all the time, but when we were in the National League, it was a case of bringing players from League One and League Two. And now we're in League Two, we're bringing players in from the National League, which is all well and good if you're mixing it in with proven Football League players, which we've not done. And now we're in a situation where we've got 2.5 hours of the window left and we need a striker. We needed a striker from the start of the season, someone with a bit of pace, because that's the one thing lacking in our team. We've let Scott Quigley go to Rochdale, and as of yet, there's no sign of us. I'm getting serious Sunderland till I die vibes at the moment, where they end up just jizzing silly money on Will Grigg at midnight. That's what I'm expecting now, just something. I think if we do get someone now, it's going to be a lone player. But I mean, in isolation, Will, some of the signings have looked good. Like the two central defenders we signed, Horsfall and Lewis, have both come from clubs where they've been playing in a back four, and they've had to come straight in and play in a back three with us. So it's kind of been a bit of a stumbling block for them. But I think everyone's shown signs that they're a decent signing. It's just we don't have a settled team yet. I think every week we're getting further and further away from knowing our best 11.
I mean, I can vouch for Horsfall. We watched him through the leagues. We had him here in a brief spell, and that's right. He's a leader. He's an organizer. He's someone at the back, and he's a fantastic investment for the next 2 or 3 years. He's still not particularly old. What, he's mid-20s now.
Yeah, that's it.
But, he's got that league. He's got that League One experience on him. So that'll come good. It's just what the characters up top. You've been there, has-beens, done it's going to do, because Sarcevic on his day is, I'd vouch, still one of the best players in the league too. Paddy Madden, he knows how to score goals, but how do they fit into a progressive model like Stockport, where you need to have younger players who are going to take you further up the pyramid? It's, have you got the people who are going to learn off them, and that's the way that they garner experience, or are you dependent on them who they might be a tad injury prone? I think both of them have had disciplinary bits and bobs on them, so is that going to affect you?
Yeah, I mean, the red, like, Madden's out for 3 games suspended now. He got sent off on Saturday, and it's something we'd seen coming from the first day of the season, because he was getting so frustrated that he wasn't getting the service, dropping deeper and deeper. And that's exactly it. We're kind of progressing to the point where we're not getting the best out of him. And it just ended up stamping on someone, just an innocuous 50-50. And he's stamped on him and got a 3-game ban now. And so we're already light on strikers. He's out as well. But it's just, we kind of hope that Sarcevic and Madden would have both stepped up. Sarcevic is our top scorer without having done much besides, but he still ended up top of the scoring charts at the moment. But yeah, I don't think the problems we've got can be solved in the next 2.5 hours. Put it that way. I don't think. Don't get me wrong. We won't be getting relegated or anything. But for a and it's not. There's talk amongst our fan base on Twitter and Facebook and everything. People saying, "Oh, well, people got their hopes up that we get promoted." So, well, the club were the ones who came out and said that in the summer. I'd be happy with third bottom, as long as we're not going into like the final week needing a result. I'd be quite happy with that. It's just nice to be back. But yeah, it's that kind of, the club moved the goalpost and said we're going for another promotion, and people are getting arsey.
Yeah, I think you need to kind of keep that kind of thing quiet, don't you? You can have all that kind of in-house. I mean, it happens quite a lot that teams that do get promoted out of the National League go on a great run and either get promoted or in around the playoffs and just miss out. So it's because you've got the momentum of being a winning club with a...
Yeah.
I mean, just because we were talking a little bit in the group chat earlier on about the players that have signed in between us all. I was going to ask you, Will, about how Conor McElhenney was getting on, because he had a great season for us the season before I went to you. We signed Liam Hogan, Nick, from you. It seems that your defence has suffered as a bit. Maybe, I don't know if getting rid of him was the issue, but he's just had an operation. He's out for 10 weeks, so we're without him. So that's a bit of a kick in the tits.
Matt, I don't want to count too much, but we were looking the other day, and there's quite a few former Salford players now at Oldham.
Yeah,
so what you said before
Salford to County to Oldham.
I'm thinking, hang on, they're all on Oldham now.
Yeah, Maynard and Hogan were both with us, and both ended up at Oldham. Yeah, it'll be Curzon Ashton next if it don't work out there.
Yeah, Sam Walker's another, isn't he?
Yes, yeah, another one. Yeah. Oh, heroes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. How is Conor McElhenney getting on? Because that was that season that he was with us. He banged in loads of goals. That was the season we had Harry Kewell. We scored like second most highest goals in the league, but conceded the most and finished like down. We should have got promoted that season just by signing a couple of defenders. But has he gone on to replicate anywhere near that kind of form in front of goal?
I mean, what Con's struggled with is injuries. Right. He's had a really torrid time of injuries last season. It took him a few games. He picked up a knock against Newport after he scored, and then he was out for a few weeks, got himself back into it, scored away at Scunthorpe, and then he was out for a couple of months. Had a couple of appearances, another knock. That took us up to the summer. Started pre-season absolutely on fire. I think he scored 3 or 4 in pre-season. Then got his first goal of the season, and who was that against Crewe? And then he got injured again. He's just come back last week, so we really hope that he'll come back and stay injury-free, because it seems like every time he gets himself going, he has that setback. So I imagine no one's as frustrated as he is, with himself. He's a really good guy. he puts the effort in. You can see the chances he's trying to get onto the end too, but he just always has that injury setback. So hopefully this is the time that he can show that form, because he was wicked against us. For Oldham, he's shown what he can do, and I think now particularly that Hendo's moved to Rochdale, Brandon going, Connor's going to be one of the two leading guys now. So there is the responsibility on his shoulders, and he'll just be hoping that he can avoid those knocks, and hopefully we can see him get up to 15, 16, even 20.
Because it's what you need, and you're not going to get anywhere without a goal scorer like that. And we'd not had a goal scorer like that at Oldham for ages, and that's always so annoying. You talk about getting your business done, Nick, and everything like that. Well, we came up to January, we were scoring so many goals. We desperately needed a right back and a centre half, desperately. But our previous owners, in their wisdom, brought in two wingers that we didn't need, who were one from Coventry, who was about 6 stone overweight, and the other one from Peterborough, who presumably had snuck himself into the country, pretending to be a professional footballer of the same name, because he was absolutely useless. And we had David Wheater, sitting on in the youth team. And it's that kind of decision making that was led to our demise. Because with the amount of goals we scored, and with having Conor McElhaney banging in the goals like he was, we should have got promoted that season. And that could have taken us out into League One. And now we're in National League. And you're saying, Nick, you need that striker. Obviously, Amos, you've got Ergel Haaglund, or whatever he's called. He's going to bang God knows how many goals this season. How many's he got already? Like 6, 7,
9 Premier League goals.
9 already.
5 games. Yeah, I mean,
wow.
Yesterday it was still August, and he was on 9. So yeah,
that's frightening, isn't it? That's right. I just noticed there, and I was just looking at the app on my phone, that Forest have just signed their 20th player.
Oh, it's getting cringy at this point. I think every time they come out, I'm just sort of, because my issue is, I mean, Matt, you'll know this, obviously being an Oldham fan, and the trials and tribulations, and Nick as well. That in the past with Stockport's ownership, if Forest go down this season, I'd actually love to be in the room in the directors' meeting when the first day of pre-season, when they go, right, guys, this is what we've got to offload this season, because some of the players they signed. So Jesse Lingard, he was playing Champions League football last year. Romo Fuller from Atalanta, he was playing Champions League football last year. Renan Lodi was playing Champions League football at Atletico Madrid. These guys are not sticking around for the Championship. They're buggering off immediately if they go down, and it's just. Okay, there's one side of it, fair enough, they're having a go. But if it don't go to plan, I see a world where they get relegated and then they go down again to League One, because that's just the sort of, that's the car crash nature of football at the moment, isn't it? And they seem to be gambling a bit. And it's sad when you see, clubs further down the pyramid genuinely struggling, and there's one lad at Forest playing Football Manager.
Have they got a sponsor on the shirt yet?
No.
Because I know it was apparently. Just want to say that Wills had to go because the groundsman's behind him with a knife, telling him he's got to go. Just saying, Will, that the groundsman's threatening you with a knife to leave. So
yeah, not quite that drastic. Life's not in danger, but I'm going to have to dip out. Thank you very much, lads.
Thanks for bringing us that exclusive live deadline. It's Sky Sports-esque. Just brilliant.
You paid for yourself there.
Absolutely.
No, there we go. All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Will.
Bye.
Yeah, so Forest were holding out for the offer that they got for the shirt wasn't what they wanted. And so now they're signing all these players and they've not got the sponsorship deal that they want, and they're not getting it. And it does seem quite reckless, doesn't it? Just
yeah, they had quite a few players who went out, but I think the excuse is well gone for that. It was like they could have made a sort of case for 12, 13, 14, but 20. I think they'll end up on 22, which is that's two full squads, isn't it? That's two 11-a-side games against each other, not including the players who are already at the club. It's mad.
I think even if they were to like get top 6 with that squad, Steve Cooper would look like you've just told him his family have died in a house fire or something. And just nothing's gonna make them. Have you seen Forest owner as well?
Yeah,
Have you
yeah,
seen the owner? He's a grubby bugger, isn't he? Oh my
yeah,
word! Still
yeah,
persevering, trying to tuck his shirt in as well, which I find admirable for a man of that girth. Good on him.
yeah. I think he's dubbed himself the president as well. On one of the Sky Sports games, the commentators said, "Oh, it's the Forest owner." Oh no, sorry, we have to call him the president. It's all very Emperor's New
Oh.
Clothes and stuff, which
Oh,
given the shirt situation, is sort of playing out a little bit, isn't it?
It does make you wonder with the shirt situation because Wrexham managed to get TikTok. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know what he's expecting.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean,
water,
their
something
documentary is
everyone needs.
superb. Their
It's
new
absolutely
documentary,
brilliant.
I can't wait till the end of the season because
Mm.
it's the way they managed to balls it up. It will make for. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets a BAFTA. It's that good.
Yeah. Well, I was because I love a football documentary, but I managed to convince my girlfriend to watch most football documentaries because there's a human side to the good ones. You
Yeah.
kind of see in the local community. And so in the latest episode, there was a lady in a wheelchair who was the unpaid volunteer disabled liaison officer. And the first thing they did was call her in and offer her a paid job and everything. And my girlfriend was just like, "Oh, that's good, that, innit?" It's like, yeah, but wait till you see how they got on in the league. You know?
No, it matters.
And then they scored. There was one of the games that I think it was in the first couple of episodes where they showed the final game of the behind closed doors season, and Dagenham go a goal up,
Oh,
Wrexham the playoff plays, and then Wrexham equalised. Like on, my girlfriend's like, I'm like, whoa! Have you not seen what I went through over like the last 6 or 7 months? Can you calm it down a bit, please?
Yeah.
Well, yes,
My
she
girlfriend
still
was the
thinks there's
same,
some
cheering them
jeopardy.
on.
Right?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
It might
So
change
you
something.
gave that woman a job. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got that to come, Matt, against Wrexham.
Well, there's talks of a documentary being made with Mad Frank. Sorry, Frank Rothwell, our owner.
He
but
was
he
the
does.
most Oldham man I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Ever. It's
you type into one of them AI things, like show me Oldham's next manager, and that's what comes up. Yeah.
This is the thing, though.
Yeah.
He's maybe he fits like an Oldham stereotype, but he's like one of a kind, really. You don't see many chaps like him knocking around Oldham, like, you know what I mean? He
definitely eats a pie with his hands.
A Wigan kebab.
He doesn't use a fork for his pie.
No. Hey, weren't we going to talk about Wigan kebabs?
Yeah, I'm in.
Doesn't that one just led us on there, didn't it?
Seal of approval from me, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pie, bread, and sauce. That's your 3 major food groups.
It needs to be quite wet, though, doesn't it? It needs to be a wet pie.
Yeah,
it could be quite claggy otherwise. Like, your pastry's got to be. If you've got a heavy, dense pastry and maybe a slightly less than fresh muffin, then you're in trouble.
You couldn't be doing it with a baby's head pie, could you? Do you have baby's head pies in Oldham? Do you call them that in Oldham?
Are they made from babies' heads?
It tastes better if they were. So you've got your meat and potato, and you've got your potato and meat.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between those two.
You're
and
right.
One of them, I'm not sure which, is put into, and it just looks like a brain in a pie.
Right.
It's like all proper crammed together into like some big ball of like mince of potato.
Is that not
meat.
like just a meat pie?
No. I think that is potato and meat, and then the normal one you get is meat and potato, where it's all kind of liquidy in there. I'm just glad I'm here to delineate the differences between these pastry-based items. Yeah.
But I mean, I've never heard of a baby's head pie.
No.
So I don't know.
You couldn't have one on a bar anyway. You couldn't be doing that on a muffin. Or on a bread roll.
Spinal column in a bap. I don't know.
We've had worse, believe it. But yeah, pies in bread. I'm all up for that.
It's just apparently, so much carbs.
Baby's head is apparently a steak and kidney pudding. Yeah, maybe it is. But
Depends
kidney, I'm not a kidney eater.
My local chippy does rag puddings, which are really good.
Rag-
Do you know Rag?
United fans ground up into.
You can find them.
They're really good. But
What's in
'cause
that?
It's just like a steak. It's a steak pudding, but it's done in it's a suet. Like
Oh,
just the
lovely
way
stuff.
that it's not like a like a Hollands pudding, but it's made with in a rag traditionally, not anymore.
Do you go for a bit of pea wet? Are you a pea wet fan?
No, I just have. That's not so much a thing. I don't think in Oldham either, to be honest.
I don't think you think anywhere anymore. Like what? What pie juice? No, you're all right. I'll give it a miss. But I don't know. I think it's died out. Same with scraps.
What's the food like at City, Amos? Is it any? Because we were talking about food the other week, weren't we? So let's take it up to the Premier League and see what it's like up there.
Yeah, I'm going to disappoint because I'm a bit like Nick in the sense that I wouldn't dare the queue because I'm very much of the opinion you take it in yourself. Big coat, plenty of pockets. I mean, I've never quite gone as far as Greg's. I think it's cold enough as it is when you buy it, so I don't know if you like it on a winter's day. I mean, if like frozen, you'd have to defrost it. But by all accounts, it's I can't remember the last deal they had, but I think Jamie Oliver was involved at one point. If you've got a family of 4, then expect to get your house repossessed the day after going to the match if you're buying stuff. But by all accounts, it's meant to be nice, I suppose, for as good as football food can be. But yeah, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know exactly. I won't be able to give you a full detailed review, unfortunately.
I can't
blue
remember.
ketchup still a thing, or is that just a myth?
No, it's not, surprisingly, but the infamous blue ketchup. Yeah, talking of moments of success, that was one City supporters hung on to whilst United were lifting multiple trophies, a treble, but did you have blue ketchup? No. So he's a real winner.
I love the fact that this thing still lingers. I do know City fans who like if the wife bought them a shirt that had a bit of red on it, they sent it back.
Oh yeah,
I know one City fan who he works in a call centre in Manchester, and last week they set up some team building thing where they ought to go on a day trip, and the day trip was to the Old Trafford Stadium tour.
Oh,
no idea. They had a buffet in one of the conference rooms, in one of the corporate things from after. So obviously for this hardcore Man City fan who's gone home and away for like 50 years, he was livid at this turn of events.
Yeah.
So on the tour where they asked, does anyone have any questions? He was like, who's the Welsh bloke who wore number 11 in United? How come you don't mention him? He was good, wasn't he? You just don't mention him. What's going on? So it was well worth it for him. He's delighted with that.
Escorted out, frog march.
Yeah. He won't be going again. But he'd asked in advance. He said, like, can I opt out of this one? It's like, well, no, it's a mandatory team building thing. Basically, I had to go. He's like, well, I'm getting something out of it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've stopped putting sign of striker yet, Nick.
No, we are 2 hours and 2 minutes away, and I am honestly the refresh button. I've hammered it, absolutely hammered it, and there's nothing. We did have fans earlier in the day hoping we'd sign Shimanga from Chesterfield, which, given he's on route to Birmingham as we speak, there's a bit of. I really hope no one at the club has pinned the hopes on that. I hope it's just fans who were like, inching for that one. But I'm getting a bit. I'm trying to get a bit worried, but as I said last week, I've still got that novelty of being like, well, we're in the league now. This is everything we've wanted for 11 years. So I think when it gets like November, when it gets like Remembrance Sunday and we're bottom of the league, then I might start thinking, oh, maybe we should have signed a striker in August.
You've always got that luxury as well of come January if need be, you've got a few quid. You can bring somebody in January, whereas Rochdale, if they're still cut adrift, and whoever else is down there struggling, generally it's the teams that don't have any money, and you've got that advantage. So yeah, you'll be fine, I think.
Well, Rochdale have got county striker now, haven't they? In Scott Quigley, so they've got a striker, which I find that
once
weird.
Again, we're paying someone to score goals for one of our league rivals. Once again,
I find that unless you've got someone lined up, it's a bizarre move to let someone go. Really, really strange. Especially because I thought from when I was watching Stockport last year when Challoner came in, he seemed like it was Challoner's man. he seemed like he got a lot out of him, and then just obviously sort of second half of the season didn't really work out. But yeah, strange one, because he can be superb on his day, but it's how often that day is.
Around the time of Bolton last season, he was absolutely unplayable.
Tore them apart.
Right.
Yeah, tore them apart.
Yeah, he scored in both games, absolutely tore him apart in the replay. And then I think round Christmas, he had an injury and then he had COVID. And after that, it was just, might as well play with. I think when we played Wrexham away a week before the season finished, he got put through on goal for a 1-on-1. And at no point did you think, yeah, he's going to score this. It was just the confidence has gone. So I think good for him that he's got to move, but I'm just disappointed. Disappointed that we're paying the wages of someone to play for another team in our league again, and because he's on big money, so we'll be paying a decent amount of it. And if we don't sign anyone else after that, it's just.
I agree. You should have come to us, and you should have been paying his wages to play for us in the National League. That would have been far better for everybody, because we need a striker and all, but can't see us bringing one in. But never mind.
You've got until April, so you're all right.
Yeah. Can you, Amos? Can you get some of these clones of Ergel Haaland to us, please?
Yeah. He's offspring.
Yeah. That would be perfect. That would be, he could be a 20th as good. He'll be perfectly adequate for what we need. So. Shall we wrap it up, because it's been an hour? I mean, it flies, doesn't it, when you are talking this level of football intellect? But there we are. It's gone.
I've had Sky Sports News on all day, and I've seen nothing this good on there.
No. Yeah, and you won't again. I've still yet to use the transition, because we've not really got anything to transition. But that when Russ is around, he's a bit more organised, isn't he? He can do the transition. We're not used that again. But we'll sign off and say thanks to Will for joining us live from the Salford City stadium, where he was, Nerve Centre. Yeah, Amos, thanks very much for joining us. Enjoyed your company this evening. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Look forward to you coming on again. Nick, as always, it's a pleasure, my friend. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to follow us, to like us, GM FootPod, wherever it is. Check the show notes. It'll all be in there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you again soon. The Greatest Manchester Football Podcast is a KUPOD production, available on all the usual podcast platforms every Friday morning from 7 a.m. Stay up to date with everything from the pod and all our contributors' content by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at GM FootPod. If you would like to get involved, or if there is a Greater Manchester Football Club you think we need to be talking about and we aren't, please get in touch there too. The title music is royalty-free music from Les FM. Visit lesfm.net for more information. Thanks for listening. See you next week.